Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's been like 3 months and a day or something like that. And we're going to pick up right where we left off with Mishlei 11:23. Okay, let's go for it. Tavas tzadikim ach tov, tikvas reshaim evra. And I think the only completely unfamiliar word perhaps is evra, which is why I put it here. So who wants to take a stab at translating?
The desires for tzadikim.
Okay, the desire of tzadikim, and I'm gonna go ahead and what do you call it? I have if anyone else is wondering if that's the best translation, I think there are multiple options, but that's definitely
I don't know all the translations. In fact, I suck at grammar and translation.
That's fine. No. This is totally fine. And in fact, I'm sure. Yeah, go ahead.
However, good.
So the punctuation, by the way, is tavas tzadikim ach tov, and here it does not mean however.
Is good.
Say again.
Is good.
What is ach though? Ach tov v'chesed yurdefuni kol yimei chayai.
Only is it
only? Yeah, is only good. Okay. Yeah, and then tikvas reshaim evra. Or you want to like hatikva?
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I'm blanking out right now.
Hope.
Yes.
Oh.
And the hope. By the way, I know it doesn't say the word "the" in it, but I think I don't know. It makes sense to say the hope of the wicked is evra. And let's just. So I was shocked to see overflow and arrogance. I learned this as fury. I didn't. That's the only word I knew for evra. So I think overflow probably is related to the word avar, like to pass or to cross over. So that's the overflow. And then arrogance I've just never heard before. And it looks like from the literal translation here thingy, arrogance is like a very, what do you call, minority usage. And then same thing with overflow or excess. But then arrogant, fury seems to be the big one, the big, most common translation. So the desire of tzadikim is only good. The hope of the wicked is fury. Does anyone have any different words for any of these translations? Because I think there's one that like can stand to be what do you call? Not debated, but given an alternative translation.
For taiva?
Taiva, yeah. How else would we translate taiva? Because desire is accurate, but I feel like taiva has definitely a connotation. So if you were to like capture the connotation of taiva, or just express the connotation of taiva,
well, I know desires. Well, how we translate taiva, is like pretty negative, but like I'm kind of translating as like you can have desire for good things or bad things.
Right. So I think what would be a good word for translating when you say negative? Like, what do you mean by negative? How do we?
Oh, like there's a really hot chick and you want to, or there's like a nice piece of juicy steak that's not kosher.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so I think the word the other possibility for taiva instead of neutral desire is lust. Okay, it has like a instinctual connotation. Okay, and people do use those for both the sexual and the appetitive. Right, is like lusting after something. Okay, all right. So let's now go to our minimalist translations here. Sadigon in his translation says Tavas hatzadikim el hatov. Okay, so he kind of like tones down the punch of it. He says the same ambiguity here. The desire, lust of the righteous is for the good. Okay, he adds in the word the, definite article. The tikvas harashaim evra, and the hope of the wicked is fury. Okay, so the only thing he really adds here is the. Targum says rigasa de tzadike betavasa, vesibura de rashie berugaza. So he also just eliminates the word ach. Okay, he just says the desire of the righteous is for the good, or for good. I'm not sure if it's for the good or good. And then visibura de rashie berugza. Okay, so I'm not even going to write that down. I think this is included in this. Okay, let's see what our friends say. Our scroll says the lust of the righteous. Oh, they say lust also. The lust of the righteous is only for good. The hope of the wicked is wrath. Okay, fine. That's basically the same as we have. Living Knox says the desire of the righteous is only, so they add in the words to do good. Okay, that's going to answer a question which I'm sure we will raise. The hope of the wicked is wrath. And then Alter says the desire of the righteous is only good. The hope of the wicked is wrath. Okay, that's good. And then Alter adds something here. Classic Alter, messing with different non-Masorah translations. He says, the hope of the wicked is wrath. Although this clause makes a certain amount of sense, as it stands in the Masoretic text, that's the Orthodox Jewish text, for lack of a better term, the traditional text. Many scholars adopt the reading of some manuscripts and of the Septuagint, Avda instead of Evra, okay, perishes instead of Evra, wrath. This would bring the verse in line with 1028b, which has nearly identical wording. Let's look at 28b because it's been probably a year. 28b, Tochelas tzadikim simcha v'tikvas reshaim toved. The hope of tzadikim is joy. The hope. The longing of tzadikim is joy. The hope of the wicked is for destruction, to be destroyed. Okay, fine. I think we can ignore that. I just wanted to show it for the sake of I don't know, something, for the sake of saying, look what Alter says. Okay, so we are now at our questions. What are our questions? Yeah, Isaiah.
So it's kind of a particular question to start with, but the tikva that the reshaim have, is that like an internal tikva, like what they're hoping for, or is that like saying like the only hope for reshaim is this?
Okay.
Like external.
Yeah. Okay. So can I reframe the question about the Evra, and then you tell me if it's the same question or if I'm missing your question. Okay. Sure. So when it says the hope of the wicked is fury, are they hoping for fury, or is the only thing they can hope to like they can expect fury?
Yeah, that's the same question.
Okay, yeah. For me, it's I think you could do it the way you did it. I feel like it's smoother if it's this way. By the way, are those trees Colorado trees in your background?
Don't remember where the trees are from.
Oh, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Makes me miss the entire western half of the United States.
I think they are Queens trees.
They're what trees? Queens?
Queens trees.
Okay,
yeah.
wow. All right. Not in this part of Queens, I can tell you that much.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, so next question.
I also have a question on specifically why is it taiva and tikva? Like what's the juxtaposition? And also obviously what does each one actually mean? And
so let me just hold on, let me just get those three questions down for 1 second. Okay. What is the definition?
I've been waiting.
Yeah, in this context. What is the definition of tikva in this context? And then I'm going to ask, what is the difference / relationship between ta'ava and tikva? Okay, are they synonyms? Opposites, or like similar but not quite the same synonyms? Okay.
Yeah. Add on to that question.
Yes, if that's okay with Rifki. Yeah, she was. I interrupted her mid-sentence.
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask
a different question. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Ariel.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems like like tikva and taiva, like taiva is like it's like a negative word almost.
Yeah.
It's like
okay.
It's a new question. I feel like it's a part of the same question.
No, I think that's okay. I'm gonna actually.
Because if it's a new question, I don't want to still.
No. That's actually good. I'm gonna put parenthetical. I'm gonna split that question among all three. Okay, so does taiva? Actually, no, not even parenthetical. Does taiva have a negative connotation? And then does tikva have a positive connotation? And then if we factor in the connotations, why are the tzadikim paired with the negative connotation word and reshaim and the wicked with the positive? Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's a good question. Yeah, Ricky, you had another question.
Yeah, so it was actually similar to that. It might be the same line of thinking. I was just gonna ask specifically on the like taiva of the tzadikim. So because we obviously generally know that it's a more negative connotation, like, why would it even, first of all, say that, like, first of all, is that true that it is only good? And how does that make sense? Because if the connotation is negative, then how could it actually be a positive connotation?
Okay, good. So I'm gonna start off general. What is special about the desire, lust of the tzadikim? Okay. And in other words, why is it only good? And then if desire has a negative connotation, then how can the desire, lust of tzadikim be good? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, Isaiah.
I guess that actually was kind of my question, but also further, like, is it talking about a real person, like someone who's real, or is this realistic to say someone's desire is like only for good?
Okay, so that's also a good question. So I'm going to say it like this: is this speaking? Is this literal? Okay, is the only literal, or is this mishleic hyperbole? Hyperbole. Okay, if the former, how can that be? Yeah, I'm going to make this into a separate question. And then if the latter, why use hyperbole? Hyperbole. Yeah, Avital.
I was wondering, in terms of the ach, first of all, what does it add to that side? But also for the, would we or could we apply it to the reshaim side? Or if it's not there, like, why would it not be
okay,
there?
that's another good. Okay, good. I didn't think of that question. So why? You know, actually, because, yeah, I'm gonna make that into a separate question. Okay, what does only, even though technically speaking, this can be added to the sixth or the fifth question, but I want to make it a different question so we could compare it to the reshaim. What does only add to the first half, and why is it absent from the second half? Yeah, okay, good. Ariel? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess it's kind of two questions. One, is it true? Like the first half.
Yeah.
Is it true? And also, if so, like what capacity? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna add this to here. Is it really true? And if so, in what capacity? In what sense?
And I guess, like, what's the definition of a tzadik and all that definitions?
Oh, yes, correct. Let's put that over here, I guess. What are I'm gonna put both questions in one, because why make them different? What are tzadikim and reshaim in this context, right? And just to refresh our memory in case we need memory refreshers, tzaddik and rasha in Mishlei either have technical, well, all the terms in Mishlei either have technical definitions, and there's a Mishlei definition of tzaddik, which, by the way, side commercial, this morning's episode of the Stoic Jew podcast, I compared Marcus Aurelius's analysis of tzadikim to Shlomo Melech's, and I thought that was very interesting for our purposes. I think everyone who was in Mishlei Shiur 2 years ago, when we spent every week on tzadikim and reshaim, I think would find it interesting. But I think even people who were here last year, or even people in general, okay. And then sometimes though, tzadikim and reshaim are just like the good guy and the bad guy of Mishlei, not necessarily technical. Yeah, Mayan.
Yeah. So I was looking at Evra and I was wondering, are Evra and Tov opposites? And what is the relationship there? And how can we understand what good is here and what fury is?
Okay, good. So I'm going to put both of those in one question also, just to encourage us thinking about them together. What is good in this context? What is fury? And are these opposites? If not, what is their relationship? Yeah, because what would you, I mean, if I asked you to bet on it and I said if I went like this, no, that didn't do anything. If I went like this and said the type of tzadikim is only good, the hope of the reshaim is, you would say, bad, right? I mean, but Evra is just what? Out of nowhere, or if I just read the second half, that the hope of the reshaim is Evra, what would you say the opposite of fury is?
Like calmness.
Okay, so calmness, if you're talking about fury being like turmoil, this is gonna raise another question. Okay, I'll hold this in for a while. Yeah, Avi.
Yeah, so I'm also thinking about fury, and my question is, whose fury?
Okay, good. That was a question I was hoping someone would ask. Okay, so yeah, I take it back. We're gonna split these. What is good in this context? What is fury? Whose fury? Okay, fury at what? Okay, and if you going back to the thing I just posed, what would be the opposite of like if you are furious at somebody, or you are, what would be the opposite in terms of your feeling towards somebody?
I guess like ambivalent, or
okay, ambivalent would be like one notch towards the middle, right? But I think there's like a positive.
Yeah,
I don't get the question. I'm not.
So in other words, I'm furious at you, or I am, what's the opposite?
You're happy with them.
Happy with you, right? So like taiva tzadikim ach, ratzon or ritzui, that's what you would expect. And then just going back to Avi's question, so whose fury? Okay, what possibilities are there for whose fury it might be?
The Russia
could be the Russia, yeah.
Yeah, one is their own fury. Okay, I can think of two more possibilities.
People around them.
Yeah, other people's.
And the world.
Oh, that I would include that in other people's.
No.
God's fury.
Or God's, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good. And there are meforshim who take all three approaches. Actually, I don't know about their own fury, but yeah, maybe. Okay.
Potentially the tzadik's fury.
Oh, that is another interesting point. Okay. Other people's. Yeah. Let's put this way. Okay. Okay. People in general, the tzaddik, or God. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. I think that covers all our bases. Okay. I feel like we did a good, efficient job of getting the questions. Nice to be back. Yeah. Okay. Good. Sometimes I feel like, all right, I'm gonna mean this in a good way because there's nothing, no evil creatures in nature. I feel like sometimes this group is like a pool of hungry piranhas. You just throw a carcass into it, and it's entirely stripped of all flesh and meat, and you got the questions really good, and that's a compliment. Okay, I feel like these bones have been quite picked. Okay, there's no I can't think right now of any questions that we missed. Oh, except for our classic questions.
Who's the audience?
Yeah, who is the audience, and then what is the practical application, which I think we do need to ask here, because I think like it could be the people who might get harmed by the reshaim. It could be the tzadikim themselves. I mean, see, that's the weird thing about this one, right? Is if it's for the tzadikim listen to mishlei, reshaim don't, right? So reshaim are excluded as an audience. So if it's tzadikim, so then that's great for the first half, but why are we telling them about the reshaim? Like, and our go-to answer is that this is talking about someone who is kind of like on the road to being able to become either, but we have to flesh it out and see if it's more specific. Okay. Are we ready for our, I'm going to put, okay, if anyone really, really yearns for Sadigon, then I'll reveal it, but I'm going to just put him down here. And so I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, now we have our thinking minute. This is the first minute I've thought all summer. No, I'm just kidding. This is the first official thinking minute we've taken all summer. Okay, let's take a thinking minute.
For some people, you're right.
That was awkward laughter, by the way. Okay. All right. Before I call on people, then I meant to say this at the beginning of Shiur, but I've been saying this at the beginning of all of my non-yeshiva shiurim this year. But I want to, for the people in the room and for the people who are listening, I want to publicly thank all the people who have contributed and donated either through Patreon or through Chase or through whatever, because this, like I mentioned before, this year I'm giving this on my own time, not part of yeshiva, and I'm reducing my tutoring in order to be able to give more free shiurim. So I really, really genuinely appreciate, and all of the contributions, and those of you who have contributed lately. I bought a new ring light because my other one broke in 4 places, and I didn't want to buy a new one. And now I have a new one, which I don't have to precariously balance. And so it's very, very good. Okay, so as we usually do, we're going to do half-baked approach first. Sorry, half-baked approaches. You know what? Should we change it up this year?
Yeah, I think we're on a higher level this year.
I think we're on a higher level this year also. So let's do this. And I think that now, again, this is not saying that half-baked approaches are worth less than other ones. But I think last year the problem was, and the year before, the problem was that majority of the people in the group were either new or newish, and people were afraid to say anything. So I think I wanted to encourage half-baked ideas. But now I think what'll happen is let's do people who think they have pretty solid ideas, not necessarily full baked, okay, but pretty solid. And then what that might do is if you have a half-baked idea, this might help you to crystallize your idea and bake it more, okay, and leave it more time in the oven. Okay, so if you have what you think is a solid idea, let's try that and see if it works. Okay, so first up, Isaiah.
Okay, so in this approach, I guess I'm going with sort of assuming something about the difference between tava and tikva.
Yeah.
Which is taiva is an emotion, just a desire, an emotion. But
okay.
tikva is sort of an emotion that forms a thought, a real a goal,
okay.
Something a little bit more
grounded in objective reality.
I don't know about that.
Okay, fine.
But
okay.
more structured in the mind. So
more concrete?
Yeah. So
more
the tzadikim, so they take their desires that they have and they just redirect them towards good things. If they have a desire for food, so then they use the food in order to get good, they use it in order to learn Torah, they'll use it for a good thing. Yeah. But the Rasha, they will, instead of redirecting their emotions, their desires, they will allow the desire to fester and sort of become a complex. They'll form this it's not just a good thing for them now. It's they'll think about it more, and then it will become wrath because they can never really get the desire from it, the good thing out of it. It becomes a fantasy for them. So I think then it goes to a negative.
Okay, I'm clear on the first half, and let me just root the first half in 2 familiar sources, or I don't know if they're familiar, but 2 sources, one from Torah B'Ksav and Torah Peh. What's the go-to source for saying that the tzaddik path is to reroute your even your base desires for the good? What pasuk? No.
Sure.
Shema. Right? Is am I in the right place? Yeah. You should love Hashem with all your heart, all your soul, and all your resources. And Rashi quotes Chazal saying with both of your yitzers, right? So that is using your yetzer hara using your hatov for the good, but also using your yetzer hara for the good. And the examples Chazal famously give is if you have aggressive tendencies and then become a shochet, if you have attention-seeking tendencies, then become a politician for the good or something like that. And then the other source I wanted to bring your attention to, which we've probably read before, is the Rambam in Hilchos Deos, the Laws of Character Traits, chapter 3, when he talks about how everything you do could be for for the service of God. When he says, if you eat, you're not eating just for pleasure or even just for health. You're eating to become healthy and strong so that you can be involved in knowledge of God and in chachma, or if you, when I'll just read the end part because that summarizes everything. Afilu b'shah shehu yashin. This is Hilchos Deos 3. Oh, sorry. I have to use the accurate one now that there exists the most accurate one ever on Al HaTorah. Got to use the good Shelat edition of this. Hilchos Deos chapter 3, halacha gimel. Vafilu b'shashu yashin. Even when a person is sleeping, im yashin leda'as k'deish tanuach da'ato alav. If he's sleeping with the intention that he should rest his mind, v'yanuach gufo, and rest his body, k'deish lo yechala, so that he doesn't become sick, v'lo yuchal la'avod es Hashem v'hu chole, and he's not able to serve Hashem when he's sick. Then it'll turn out that his sleep is service of God. And regarding this, the Chachamim commanded and said, all your actions should be for the sake of heaven. This is what Shlomo said in his wisdom: in all your ways know him, know God, and he will straighten your paths. Okay, so that's the first half. So what Isaiah is saying is that when tzadikim, even when they have like a taiva, when they have a base or emotional desire, they'll reroute it towards good. And that's how it could be true that their desires are only good, because desires are not good or bad. It depends on how you use them. So tzadikim will always channel their desires in a way that's good. Okay, I know there are 3 more people waiting, but let's try to develop the second half. So what Isaiah said is that the tikva is a much more specific type of thing, and reshaim will get fixated on this in a way that is insatiable, or in a way that can't be satisfied. And that'll be infuriating for them because they won't be able to achieve it. I'm less clear in that. So if anyone can develop it or come up with an example, then I'm open to hearing that.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
Yeah. So he was saying tikva in comparison to taiva, tikva is more concrete or specific. Like you don't have general hopes, right? You can have desire for pleasure, but you don't have general hopes. You have hopes for specific things. Reshaim have these hopes and they make them into a fixation, which because somehow it's rooted in fantasy or whatever, they just can't achieve it and it makes them angry. I'm just not clear on it. I'm also not clear on how it's the opposite, even though it sounds related. So Isaiah, what do you want to say?
I mean, I was thinking of it kind of like addiction. Like they it's like because like when the tzaddik like redirects their taiva, so then they have it and then it's kind of gone. But the Rasha like thinks of it as like a hope. They like hope for it and then they try to get it and they can't get it.
Okay, so let me just try cutting out the middleman then, meaning let's just say, I'm not cutting out the middleman. Let me just try saying this in my own words, and then again, I don't know if this is another idea. Reshaim do tend, especially the Mishlei definition of Russia, that someone who's trying to like be the system, to take over the system, to make it serve themselves. Reshaim tend to have desires that are all connected to their ego, which is insatiable, ultimate power, ultimate fame, ultimate immortality, ultimate control, ultimate admiration. And those cannot be channeled. You cannot have absolute things that are channeled in a healthy way because they're infinite and they're based in fantasy, and they will end in frustration. So maybe that's so in other words, like this. Let's try this one more step now. Tzadikim, it's talking about taiva because the tzadikim don't have these exaggerated ego-driven fantasies, but they are physical and psychological beings, and they have desires, but those desires they channel towards achievable things that are for the good. Reshaim, certainly they have desires that they're not channeling towards the good, but their ambitions, maybe that's a better term for tikva here, their ambitions, their ego-driven, fantasy-based like aspirations are going to be like so unrealistic that they don't channel them for the good, and they can never be satisfied. How's that? Okay, good. Okay, so if anyone wants to add on to that, good. If not, we'll move on to Rifki's. Anyone want to add on to that?
I just want to point out that what I like about that is that they work really well in like the ABBA kind of thing. You can flip both of those nicely. You can say, tzadikim channel for the good, and reshaim channel or don't channel at all, or channel for the bad. And then you can say reshaim, their hopes and land them in fury, but tzadikim, their hopes land them in satisfaction.
Okay, that is good. That's always a satisfying, snug Mishlei feeling when it fits into the ABBA pattern. By the way, I want to enlist your help. By you, I mean everyone. One of my experiments for September, which hopefully will succeed and then make it into a goal for the year, is there have been 2 years already now where I have like been very lax with making records of the ideas that we've learned. So I really want to try to take notes at the end of our shiur on the approaches that were taken. And I'm going to try doing 4-sentence summaries one more time. It's not that hard, I'm telling myself, because I average 3 Mishlei. I don't want to do summaries of everyone's ideas, but I want to do at least one summary for each pasuk. So if you can help remind me before we end shiur to like quickly like type up summaries of like one note summaries, it would really help me. Okay, Rivki.
Okay, so I was actually thinking along like very, very similar lines. So it goes well, like I'm right saying it now. Yeah. So basically everything that I was thinking was said, like it wasn't that fleshed out, but I wanted to just add one line, which is that I think like it really helped me understand why specifically it was using like the positive and negative connotations, but reversed, because I think it really speaks to each character in and of itself, because like we were saying, the tzaddik is trying to harness those feelings and thoughts, whatever, for good, and it's using a more negative connotation to show that even though it's a more in general, it's like a negative feeling or thought, that the tzaddik, and not just the tzaddik, but hopefully anyone who's reading it could take those desires and then make them into a positive thing, which is why I would use a negative one with the positive, and then the same exact idea for the Russia.
Okay, that's a good point to bring on the nuance there. Okay, good, nice.
Can I also comment on that kind of? So just in terms of, or I guess it goes with that same idea that Isaiah brought up, but like taiva and like something that's like a desire, I think generally comes along with the connotation of being short term, while tikva is like something that's very like long term. So like even in these things, like normally like we talk about how reshaim have like these desires, like things that are more like for the here and now for themselves and whatever it is, while like I think tzadikim like this tikva of like long-term hope and long-term like knowledge or like vision, I guess. Like I think it contributes to the fact that like the tzadikim in their like taiva, even in this thing that they're viewing as short term, is going to be for the good, while like, even this long-term reshaim, like when the Russia tries to take the role almost of the tzaddik, it still comes out.
Okay, that's really, really good. Okay, I like that. Okay, good. Yeah, this is so, you know, just methodology point here. When people ask questions on specific word choices in Mishlei, right? So sometimes I'll say like, usually my go-to answer will be like, if we can come up with an answer that like adds a nuance, then great. But if not, then we won't lose sleep over it. But what we really would be great is if you had an answer that wasn't just a nuance, it was like part of the main idea, you know, like that's what the Malbim, bless his heart, tries for in every single pasuk, you know, and he, again, Malbim can do this because he has his whole system where he says there's no such thing as synonyms in Hebrew, and he like makes every word into an ikar. We, bless our hearts, have to like organically develop this from like our own knowledge, and then like, you see, okay, let me see what we did here. We latched on to the like slight connotation. I don't think any of us were forcing preconceived definitions into the pasuk. I think we were saying we were working with it like, okay, desire, maybe a little negative, animalistic, impulsive, maybe a little like aspiration or whatever, and then we developed it, and now we get to this point where like the words are perfect. Like it's hard to imagine this pasuk expressing this idea with other words, you know. So I think that's like this is a good example of like what I would like to do with every pasuk if possible, but we just usually don't get there.
Yeah, Rabbi Shemos, it turns out that like I feel like, you know, Rivki's, you know, idea, I think it's a complete separate idea though. It's not like, because I was thinking along those lines and I have a complete different.
Okay, so I'll we'll hear you say it, and then Rivki will either say, yeah, that's what I was saying, or no.
I don't think that's what you're saying, because I'm taking what she's saying and I think the approach is a new idea. But I think from what it sounds like, she was kind of like slapping it on with Isaiah's.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Well, I would say that it's possible that you have a new approach also, but I was thinking much more in line with Isaiah. So I guess
so that's why I said
yeah.
it's a new
Rivki, I don't think you used the word slapping it on in your own presentation idea, but maybe that's how Ariel envisioned it. All right, so Ariel, why don't you hold on for a little while? Let's go with Chaim next, and then you'll say your piece. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, Chaim, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I have like a vastly different approach that might not work.
Good.
But,
it'll be a palate cleanser. Okay, either a palate cleanser between now and the same dish, or a palate cleanser for another course. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. I guess it depends on who's eating it. If it's Ariel or someone else. But yeah. So okay, I want to take like a couple different I guess jumps, and hopefully they work. Okay. The first thing I want to do is establish the audience. The audience, I think, is somebody who's leaning either way. Either into like call it the pool of tzadikim or the pool of reshaim.
Yeah.
And I want to focus on the fact that both tzadik and rasha here are in the plural, and that both tzadikim and reshaim have like specific qualities when they're in a group. And I think the tzadikim thing kind of works whether or not it's tzadik or tzadikim, but I think reshaim is going to give me like hopefully that little jump. Mm-hmm. But so then for the desire of tzadikim, I want to take the idea that has been floating around that desire has a negative connotation of like lust or something like that, something more physical, and that to the onlooker who's like kind of trying to figure out which pool he wants to go to, he could see that like, oh, these people have like desires as well, and like maybe that's like a bad thing that tears them away from like the good. But by reaffirming and reassuring him that even their desires they use for the good, like Isaiah was talking about, like that kind of like I guess gives him that like extra little push towards that side. And then as far as the hope of the wicked, I want to use excuse me, I want to say that the fury actually comes from the other reshaim in the circle. Like the way that we talk about like a group of reshaim is like a very explosive, very non-conducive group. Yeah. And I want to say that the hope is actually a guy. So this guy who's standing here, he thinks that he can like kind of like test the waters, try it out. He's maybe gonna go in there, and then if he sees that it's getting bad, he'll just like jump out, and he'll be like, I can get out of this and it'll be fine. What he doesn't realize though is that when you, and this is like a little bit of a stretch here, but like when you have hope in the like society of reshaim, then they're gonna just turn on you and they're gonna like just get rid of you. They're gonna devour you. Like there is no getting out.
Like the opening scene of The Dark Knight. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. Or like just like classic like the mob, mafia, anything like that. Yeah. And so then I think that so then the hope of the wicked is fury, which is that somebody who's in it and is hopeful to maybe get out or to try to get out. There is no like, in a sense, like the only hope is, I don't want to say the only, I guess when hope is expressed, and I'm using hope as again to kind of get out of there, like in the positive. The only response in a sense is that like he's gonna get like killed or just like done with basically. Okay. Kind of basically.
Okay, good. I want to just add a little bit to that. So I'll summarize it and then add a little bit to it. So Chaim is focusing on who the audience is, and it's someone who's kind of like between the two worlds, and it's showing him that if he goes into the society of tzadikim, so then their hope is for the good that will benefit everybody, that they'll all attain together, right? And I want to show you the reason why is because tzadikim make the best friends. How do we know this? Because in Avos, wait, let's just do Rambam on friendship. This has got to be somewhere. Oh, wait, Rambam on friendship. Okay, this is a PowerPoint from, let's do the most recent one. This is when you guys were, no, this is not the most recent one, never mind. Hold on. The highest level of friendship. Yeah. Is this a full translation? Hold on. All right, no, whatever. I'll just summarize it. Okay, so I don't have the text of the Ram here. Ram says that the true friendship is when each of you desires for the other to help the other person attain the good. And that's how tzadikim work, is they want everyone to achieve the good, but certainly people who are seeking the good, so you get in that circle and you're just going to get bound up and everyone's going to be helping everyone else to achieve the good. The reshaim, because I think of what I said, that they're all like ambition, power seeking, system destroying ambitions, they will inevitably come to clash, which is why, again, yeah, with the mafia, I mean, I think better examples are like military or, dictators of countries who get overthrown by those closest to them, you can't split everything and have everything be good for everyone. It's all going to come crashing down eventually. And I think that Sadigon, I don't know if this is what Sadigon is saying, but he does help, because the desire of the righteous is for the good. There is a common good that the tzadikim are looking towards, but the hope of the reshaim is for their own good, and you can't, that's a zero-sum game. If you are one Russia and you're getting your good, it's taking away from my good and vice versa. So it can't end well. Okay, that's good. All right, so I'm going to just note this here. Hold on a second. I'm going to make small notes and then we'll expand. Okay, so Chaim's is talking to the person pulled in both directions. And can you hear the Dinsmore noises outside?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Speaking of Reshaim's hopes, yeah. Society of tzadikim versus reshaim. Okay, I'll reconstruct this later on. Okay, at the end. All right. Anyone want to add to Chaim's approach? Okay, the suspense. Ariel, do you have a new approach, or do you have? Are you slapping your approach onto Rivki's approach?
I kind of like. Well, I kind of like Rivki's beginning, and I kind of like Chaim's ending.
Okay.
I don't know.
Why don't you express it the way you were going to express yours, and then we'll see what happens.
I'll do that, and then okay, fine. So, I was dealing with the same question with the, like the opposites, taiva and tikva.
Yeah.
And then it kind of led me automatically to decide who the audience is, and I want to establish that the audience are the people interacting with the tzadikim or the reshaim.
Okay. I think that's a good possibility.
Yeah. So if you say that, then you can say that, look, yeah, and another thing that I want to make a move on is, you have to separate the man from the action. Right? Yeah. Because sometimes, the action may not seem, may not reflect on who the individual actually is, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a point that Rivki was saying, because Rivki was saying that, if I understood correctly, that sometimes a tzadikim may have desires and lusts, and that's a negative connotation, and it may be a little negative, and you may perceive it as negative, but in reality, because they're tzadikim, that you could give them the benefit of the doubt that they do have a righteous purpose to that desire, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the individual interacting with the tzaddik, should, just I guess be aware of that. And it's funny, I didn't really know how, so until I heard Chaim's approach, the second half of the pasuk was giving me a little difficulty, but then when you said about the ambition, hope is it's like you're kind of being ambitious towards something.
Yeah.
Hope it's gonna, be fruitful. So the tzadikim can also have ambition. They could also have hope, but the ambition itself is not a negative, it's not negative, so sometimes, the tzaddik may have great goals, and that could be perceived as something negative because of some of his actions, but in reality it's not, right? So, but the wicked's hope, it may be perceived as something that's, that's positive, but in reality, that's just, because they themselves are individuals who are kind of going against the system, that they're going to just clash with the world, and ultimately their ambitions, their hope is going to fall apart, and that's what's going to get the people furious, and it's going to get, the Russia furious too.
Okay, so I heard the individual pieces, but I'm not sure if I hear the unity. So let me try saying the unity that I hear, and then you tell me if this is what you're saying. So the audience is the people who are interacting with these tzadikim, And it's saying that even though, since taiva is bad, if you see a tzaddik exhibiting something that looks like a taiva, you should know that it is that he's channeling it for the good. And I'll give you an example of that, where you said people can have a give the wrong impression. Is David Melech, when he was becoming king, and trying to like replace Shaul. So he was doing it at Hashem's command, and it was for the good of Klal Yisrael. But people accused him of just like trying to seek power for himself, or let's say like Shlomo HaMelech, when he built the base of Mikdash and made such like lavish, ornate like expenditures. People, I'm sure, said like, "Oh, you're just trying to like make your kingdom great," and he's doing it for the glory of Hashem. So it looks like a taiva, but really it's for the good.
Yeah, perfect, great.
Tikva of reshaim is the opposite. It's many times you have reshaim who make it seem like they're really doing something that is a major ambition that's in the people's best interests. But you should know that if they are reshaim, then it cannot be in their best interest, and it's only going to lead to infuriating you.
Exactly. What's the problem?
Okay, good. All right, that is a distinct idea. Okay.
But it's, I don't know, Rivki, was that what you were going to say?
So I was at the end of the day saying what Isaiah was saying. Like I wasn't at all talking about perception. Like I think it's a really interesting idea, but I was speaking more about the actual like characters and speakers in and of themselves, like as opposed to how other people see them.
Yeah. Look at the separate the person from the action and define the action based on the person Mishlei personality. Okay. I mean, again, I want to tighten these up at the end of Shiur. Personality. Okay, yeah, Zach.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do I was trying to think of the best way to go about through this idea. It's a slightly different approach. So I think I'm going to start with the second half.
Okay.
And work my way backwards, and then to like the audience and application. I think that the slight difference is that Ariel's being a jokester in the chats. Okay. Is that fury, I think, is the hope rather than a result. It's like they're hoping for fury.
Okay.
I think that's like the slight nuance of how I'm reading it differently. And so the first thing that came to mind, and there's two that are kind of similar, but first thing that came to mind as an example of this is somehow in so many like movies and shows and stuff, the the bad guy, the villain or whatever, is trying to rile up the hero and trying to get them mad and angry.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first thing that came to mind. I was thinking, like, why is that? Why is the bad guy trying to get the good guy angry? Like, why not just fight him and try to beat him? What's the purpose of getting them angry first?
Yeah.
And I think that it's to fit it's kind of to like create a world order in their mind where they reign supreme. Because as long as if they manage to get the tzaddik or the hero or whoever you in this context angry, then the difference between them and you guys are both out of control, but they're
pushing the
better at being out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, did I?
No, I was just saying they're the ones who are calling the shots, and like
exactly. So exactly,
like reactive, yeah.
Exactly. So if everyone's out of control and I'm looking at fury as like this like out of control emotion of anger, let's say, then they're at the top of the food chain. They're just the strongest out of control person. And as long as there's other people who are not out of control, then they're just relegated all the way down to just this out of control crazy person, so to speak.
Yeah.
So they want to create a world where everybody's out of control, and then they're at the top of the food chain.
Right. That's why just to give examples, alluding to certain things. That's why, like, certain politicians utilize fear mongering and divisiveness and like like calling people enemies and like sowing distrust, because that is exactly like what they're doing. Is like, as long as they can be the ones who are like creating the stuff, and throwing everything into chaos, then they kind of can retain like that power, by
It's interesting. I do agree with that, although that was a slightly different point than I think I was trying to make.
Okay, sure.
I think I was trying to pull out the point that they see themselves, or they recognize to some degree themselves, that they're not fully in control, that they're somewhat ruled by their fury. And as long as everybody's ruled by their fury, then they're just the strongest person ruled by their fury.
All right, I see that point also. Yeah.
And then the second way that fury is their hope is that they have a lot of, let's say, dissonance because they're not living in reality. But when a person is engaged with the feelings of fury, it kind of overrides all of that dissonance, and it allows them just to forget all that and just be furious. And so like they're in those two ways, fury is their hope of like feeling good about themselves and existing in a nicer state.
Okay.
And then and one other thing here is that, or actually I'll say that point after I say the first half, is whereas with tzadikim, their good is their desire, as in they it's funny because I think you actually said a great example in the beginning of the class, which is like we like picked apart, you said like it's like a bunch of piranhas going after like the main like that was a great example in the sense that like there was a true desire, like normally picking apart a bone is like almost a negative thing, but no, there's like this true desire to like get to the good of something. And I think one of the interesting points is that I think hope in the second half has a connotation of desperation, in the sense that you have someone who is wicked and you say, like, what is the context of this wicked person? Like, they're in a bad state. Like, they're not in reality. They're not aligned with reality. They're probably suffering because of this. And so their only hope is fury, so to speak. So there's like this desperation, is that they need fury in order to like maintain their like sanity. And tzadikim, good is something they desire. Is more like they can pursue it not through desperation, but because that they truly want to go after it. And so I think the audience ultimately comes from the people who can pick up on these cues. And I think when you were saying before, like tzaddik can make the best friends, it's like when we go out in the world, oftentimes people aren't fully one or the other, and we need to choose who to surround ourselves with. And I think these are strong indicators that will help us determine kind of categorically where a person sits. And I think that you can tell, like, in my mind, I was thinking like format wise, it's almost like an A-B-B-C maybe format, where you have like two extremes and a middle ground. So you have one extreme, which is like people who pursue good, another extreme, which is where people are like somewhat indifferent. That's like the middle path. And then you have another middle part with it, whereas people aren't necessarily actively inducing fury in themselves and others. And the extreme, the furthest extreme there is where like people are trying to get angry about things, trying to get angry at, their work, their boss, their friends, their partners. They're always trying to stir up anger in themselves and others. And I think that as people navigating the world and learn and trying to figure out who to surround ourselves with, we can use those indicators to help us, navigate and choose who to surround ourselves with.
Okay, so before I call on Chaim to add to this, I just want to, I here too, I understand the individual pieces, and I'm still having a hard time seeing the unity. And I actually want to revive a question. I listened to a bunch of Rabbi Moskowitz Mishlei Shiur from his high school teaching days last couple of weeks, and I mentioned this in this year before, but his big question that he held you should ask for every single idea you come up with is, what is the subject of the pasuk? So let's say like for Isaiah's, which I know I still haven't summarized, the subject is is how really like what to do with your desires, something like that. For Chaim's, it was really like the these might not be the best formulation. I'm trying to give you an idea of like what the question is what your fate will be when you throw your lot in with tzadikim versus reshaim, like that's like the clear, the clear thing. According to Ariel, it really is like how to interpret the like these are not good answers. The desire-driven actions of tzadikim and reshaim, something like that, but it's like about how to interpret it. So Zach, if you could think while I call on Chaim, if you could think about like, what would you say the pasuk is about, according to you,
You want me to give a stab at it now, or you want me to?
Yeah, all right, fine. Let me give a stab at it now. Yeah. Well, it's still
is that I think it's about understanding the cues and being able to like identify which camp people are in to help inform our like friendship decisions.
Okay. Yeah. People are in to know who to befriend. Okay. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Yeah. Chaim?
Yeah, I had a couple questions for Zach, and then I also had like a good example of what he's saying, I think,
Sure.
For the Russia side at least.
Yeah.
Especially that whole like hero villain like a thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the best example of like a hero villain Russia Sonic is always like Batman and Joker,
Yeah.
And like all the time, like Joker's trying to just like get in his head, and then when he finally does and Batman snaps, he punches him or something like that. He's like, "See, you're just like me," So
yeah,
like,
right. That's a good example. Yeah, that's a good example.
Like the villain just wants to like show him that like I'm not so different than you, and you're really a bad guy as well. Maybe I'm just not a bad guy, says the Russia, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Which pause for 1 second. I mean, Ariel, I think throughout several seasons, there's some good examples of that in Cobra Kai too. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Chaim.
There's that. And then one of my questions, I think I might forget one of them. One of my questions was like, I'm not super clear on the audience of the pasuk. Like it seems like he's kind of saying that it's like someone who's looking to categorize people. But if that's what it is, then like how do you see that? Like how do you see someone whose desire is good, and how do you see somebody whose hope is fear? Like I'm not really sure how to see that. And then it almost seems like part of the definition for the Russia that you're talking about, Zach, is almost like a late in a sense, where he's like stirring up troubles and like trying to like make everybody upset and like poison the water and whole kind of thing. And I just don't know if that, I mean, maybe I'm wrong with that like observation, but it just kind of seems not as Russia dick as like usual.
All right. So before Zach answers, I want to try answering those two questions based on my understanding, and then and then Zach could like answer fully. So the first question was about the audience, and my understanding is that actually I think this is kind of part of the answer to both of these questions, is that Zach is not taking the tzaddik in Russia here as the absolute archetypal Mishleic tzaddikim and reshaim, that we often have. Like ordinarily when in the tzaddik in Russia pasukim, we're talking about like someone who like, obviously there's no such thing as 100% tzaddik, but someone who like is like, you would characterize them on the drop-down menu as a tzaddik, but I think Zach is going with the possibility that the tzaddikim and reshaim here really are like the good Mishleic actors and the bad Mishleic actors on the road to like towards that. Like everyone has certain areas where they partake of tzedek and partake of resha, but this pasuk is not talking about the absolutes. This is talking about like how to find people who will, the basis of your friendships will be like connecting through the tzaddik aspects of their personality, and to the contrary, like how many of your relationships are going to end up, like ending up suffering because of the Russia tendencies of these people. Yeah, that's what I'd say for both of them. But yeah, Zach, what do you want to say?
Yeah. I don't know if this is. Could we scroll back up on the?
To where?
Oh no, that's good.
Okay.
Oh man, I just lose it.
The late thing also, sorry. I think also that's why what Zach was describing about like I don't know about anger. I mean, you're right, Chaim, about anger. That the late is going to be like specifically like trying to sow discord by like mocking people and like bad mouthing people and stuff. At times it sounded like Zach was talking more about like the starting with the cognitive dissonance thing. Like people don't like to be in conflict, and so there's going to be part of their mind that recognizes that what they're doing is not like a good lifestyle or not good decisions, and then part of them like just wants to ignore all of that. And the more like the more like they can like drop the smoke bomb of like the world of like bad Mishlei decisions, the more they can like forget about all that stuff. And so I would say like fury could be one thing, partying could be another way that people do that, like escapist activities could be another way that people do that. Like I don't think it's confined to that in principle. It just in this pasuk it's talking about fury. And Zach, it's up to Zach to answer why after Rivki. Yeah, Rivki.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, like, obviously Zach is going to have like responses to everything, but I was just going to say, at least from what I took away from this part of the discussion, is that I don't think it's as much like you were saying about the archetype, but more about like the Russia's goal at the end of the day is like we're saying to get his like visions or wants across. And it could be that in this specific pasuk that's the method of doing it, at least to Zach's approach. So I don't think necessarily like, oh, like the Russia's characteristic is that he's more like a lace and he's mocking and, like the Joker and all those things, but more that it could be a method as to how he can get what he wants to control people in X, Y, and Z.
Correct. Yeah. And this is why, by the way, like I'm going along with this because, I know we're going to get to a good idea no matter what. I am not sold on this as an interpretation of the pasuk, by the way. I think it's like way too many, like taking way too many liberties with the words and with the personalities and stuff. And it's not, I think the other readings we've done fit in much better with the words of the psukim, but I have confidence that like Zach has an idea here. So you can get bonus points, Zach, if you convince me that this is a good read of the pasuk, but my main goal is to understand what you're saying.
I think I have an answer for Zach.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Ariel.
No, I was joking because
okay, yeah. Go ahead, Zach. And I think just to frame the rest of this, let's hear Zach say his idea, and then I want to go to some meforshim, and then let's tie it up. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of backlog thoughts now. Mm-hmm. I'll start with Rabbi with the thing you were saying about the distinction of like extremes versus not extreme Mishlei characters. So I would say it was like kind of what you're saying. There's a distinction I want to make, which is I actually think that the pasuk is talking about the extreme versions of the characters, like an actual Russian, actual tzaddik, but the audience, the utility of this is for non-extreme situations.
So that already makes it better in terms of an interpretation.
yeah, I had a feeling you might think that. Is that so he's bringing out an idea by talking about it in extremes, but in how we apply it, we understand it as a principle that has broader application.
Okay, good.
So then to let's see if we can touch all of the points. So Chaim had two questions. One was about how we can see the signs, and what was the other question?
Sounds like sounds like not so much as Russia.
Yeah. So it was pretty close to what other people said. The way I was thinking of it is that there is something that that defines a Russia's activities, and this pasuk isn't isn't talking about that. He's pointing out that when you have someone who engages in rush activities, they end up in a state of cognitive dissonance, and their hope for easing that cognitive dissonance is fury. So whereas with the lates, maybe this is like their primary modus operandus, this is a byproduct of the situation a Russia finds himself in.
I see the distinction. Right.
Yeah.
The lates, like his activity that he enjoys, that he like, that he thrives off of is mocking people. The Russia, like, it's almost like a coping mechanism type.
Exactly. He wants to either enrage others or be enraged himself in order to like satiate this cognitive dissonance that he's continuously existing in.
Yeah.
And then as far as
side point, I'm doing this as a side point so that I don't throw you off. There is, if you go on the blog, and there's a article I wrote about Ibn Ezra's definition of Russia, where he defines Russia not as evil, but as the person who is agitated and who's caught between, like, in a stormy sea, like, uses that analogy. That definition, even though that's not the Mishlei definition we've been using, almost fits better here. Like the person who's just like caught in a world of like between between his desires and reality, between like conflicting desires.
Yeah, I mean that is a convenient definition. Although I would also say that I don't know from a Mishlei perspective if like the Mishlei Russia, we would say, has a pleasant psychology, or his mind is a pleasant place to be. Okay, so then as far as the cues, so we're talking about non-visible things, so it's not like it's not as simple as saying like, oh well, if they wear this color hat, then we know they're a Russian. If they wear that color shirt, we know they're a tzaddik, But what he is doing is he's taking things that are extremely vague and maybe hard to get a full read on, and boiling it down to a single trait that we can focus on. So it's not that it's more visible per se, but when you engage and interact with someone, rather than trying to or needing to get a full read on everything about them, you can he's pointing out like a green flag and a red flag, so to speak, where you can say like, oh, this person is inducing fury, so to speak, and oh, this person is seeking truth. And that is a flag that indicates, a larger psychology of which camp they're a part of.
Yeah. Okay. That is a good cue.
Yeah. And then was I missing, Rifki, did you say another point? Because that might have added a thought as well.
Yeah, I just said that, like, in response to the late situation, that it's not necessarily that the Russia is actually, his character is to act in that way, but it's more so for the end result of that he could be using those tactics in order to get the desired results.
Yeah. Okay. So so I addressed that already with how I responded to Rabbi then about, like, to me, this is a coping mechanism rather than a primary objective.
Yeah. Just a good example that may help people to think about this for the way Zach's interpreting the hope of the reshaim being fury is, I feel like there are lots of people that we see either in friend groups or families that, I guess the modern way of saying it is like they need drama in order to function. Like they need to be like in a state where they are where they're like there's relationship tension, or like there's so and so is fighting, and like they you can tell that, like, I don't know what is driving them, but like that's the type of Evra I think that like they need. I don't know if that makes sense to Zach, but that's what I was thinking as an example. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, quickly, just one more thing, like based on what you said, that I think it also just helps fuel, again, like his goal, because when you're, let's say, in that situation you were talking about with like the tension, whatever tension it is, it's much easier to like either control or get that person to listen to you. And I think like what we were saying before, like what Chaim was saying with the Joker and the Batman situation, is that you want that person to like not just like snap and to come to your level, but also like in a sense you are controlling them, like he was controlling him in a certain way.
Right. Yeah. See, you're petty too. I'm just acknowledging it. I acknowledge it, and you're in denial. Like that kind of thing. Okay. All right. Good. That's a good approach, Zach. You did. I still don't know if you sold me on the pasuk, but I see it fitting in now. Whereas before I didn't see it fitting in. Okay. Let's just quickly glance at a few. Meforshim took similar approaches. There's only one that I want to highlight that's like radically different, I think. Hold on. Who said Isaiah's idea the best? Was it? Huh. Just 1 second here. No. Oh my goodness. Huh. I thought someone said Isaiah's.
Isaiah said this.
That is true. I can't deny that. But someone said it like in almost Isaiah's language. All right, let's just read what the Mr. David says and see. Ach tov mikol hatavos, out of all of their desires, bochrim ach tavas maseh tov ozvim hashar. So that's not what we said. He's saying that they have many taivas, but they only choose the good ones, and they leave the rest. So he's answering the question of, it's not that they only have good desires, it's that they only act on their good desires. So that does show certain mastery over their desires, which the Russia is not going to have. Evra kol tikvasam limso davar ma lichos ulihiskatef al mi. Everything they do is in order to find something to be angry about or to enrage at someone. Okay, I don't know what he's saying. Oh man, hold on. Okay, that's also the same. He lasas to kadeshi couple sakartav ein lahem yad bereshav alkin hakel yimali tavasam. Oh, this is a good idea. This is not what we said, I don't think. But he says Tavas tzadikim he lasos tova. The desire of the tzadikim is to do good, kadeshi kablu sacharto, so that they receive good reward. Okay, I don't know if he means that their motive is to receive good reward, but I think like a good outcome. Ve'ein lahem yad beresha, they don't involve themselves at all in evil. Ve'alkein, and therefore hakel yimale tavasam, therefore God will fulfill their desires. Yeah, okay. Aval tikvas reshaim, but the hope of the wicked, he shiavo tova, their hope is that good should come to them. Hakel maybe alehem ever, but God will bring wrath upon them. Because they act with iniquity, with injustice, and they don't follow the ways of God. So this is I don't know what the chiddush is here, but just a good expression of the basic Mishleic idea that because the tzadikim have their desires in line with justice and righteousness, then I think he's reading this in two ways. He's saying, in other words, because their desire is only for good, then they're going to get the good, because that's how reality works, But the reshaim, they have hope for good, but all they're going to get is bad because they're trying to go against it. Very basic Mishlei idea, but I thought he expressed it pretty well.
Yeah, I think also what's cool is that I think that you learn a lot of Mishlei, and you exist in a world where the logic of Mishlei is more apparent. But I do think for most people in most parts of the world, that would be a phenomenal finish.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. And we do have to remember that Mishlei is written for the four audiences, and that the idea that a Mishlei Chacham or Navon is going to get the idea that Mishlei Chacham and Navon would dismiss as not a chiddush is going to be a chiddush to the Pesi and to the Na'ar. Yeah. Okay, this is the idea. It's the Meiri. Tikvas tzadikim achtov, tikvas reshaim ever. I think I didn't think it because the first part wasn't relevant. Hu nikshar ima pasuk shalamala himenu. Okay, this is connected to the pasuk above this. Anyone remember what the last pasuk we did was before the break?
No.
It was the golden ring in the snout of the pig. Right. So is the beautiful woman who lacks intelligence. Okay. So he says, "Haim benigla, haim benisar," but I don't think we need that idea for this. V'hakavana ki tzadik ein michukul hisavos. So the tzaddik by his constitution only desires good actions. Reshaim kol mashem mekavim mipu'uloseim enam rak erev vakas. And the reshaim only hope in their actions for evil. Okay, but here's the part. That's his idea, which is not what Isaiah said. But here's the idea Isaiah said. V'rom is gamkein shet tzadik kol ma'asav. All the tzaddik's actions, afbis asko b'chumrios uvahamonios, even when he's dealing with his base and common desires, like the lowly desires, hakol l'tachlis kavana ma'ula. All of it is for a good intent, a good purpose. V'harasha kol ma'asav afilu b'peulos hatovos, even his good actions, ponos l'tachlis ra, are inclined towards a bad action. Okay, so that's like it's the second half is slightly different than what Isaiah said, but I think the first part fits in really well. Okay, the new idea though that I want to show you is hold on. Okay, yeah, the Malbim. Okay, I think there's a really creative idea in here, but I might be projecting. Okay, so let's see. Tavas tzadikim. So again, classic Malbim says there's no synonyms. Yesh havdal bein tava uvein tikva. There's a difference between tava and tikva. Misave ein lo shum yachul lahasik es hadavar rak shum misave levad. Taiva, the person who has taiva, there's no hope that he'll attain the thing he's yearning for. He just has the desire. But the one who's hoping, hope means that there is a possibility that he'll get it. Now, if you stop here, it ends up being weird because it sounds like the tzadikim are not going to get what they're looking for, and the reshaim are. So this is tavas harasha hu ra. The tava of the rasha, which our pasuk does not say, is bad. Whether because he desires evil for possessions that are not his, and he desires all these usher things, or because he cannot attain his desire, like it's a fantasy. Like it says, the desire of the wicked, the lust of the wicked will perish. Well, tavas tzadikim hu ach tov, but the tava tzadikim is only for good. Only if because he only desires the good, or because God will give him what he desires. Tavas anavim shamata Hashem. V'hu tov mitzad zeh gamkein she'yisma latavaso k'mo shekasav tava nihye ta'irav l'nefesh. Okay, he's bringing quotes from psukim to support it. About tavas reshaim evra, but the hope of the wicked is evra. Gam hadavar shehem makavim alav v'choshvim kihu muchan lifnehem. Even the thing that they hope for and they think is ready for them, like waiting for them, lahasik, to attain it. Also, whoever mishnei panim, it's wrath in two ways. Imitzat hatachlis, either because of the objective, ki lo yasigu tikvasam vis abru, because they will not attain what they hope for, as it says, tikvas mipach nefesh, the tikvas reshaim toved, and the hope of the wicked will perish. Ki mi tikvas chanef kivitza. Okay, I should have looked up all these pasuk ahead of time. Imitzad tikva ba'atma shu rak l'ra, or because of the hope itself, which is only for bad. Kumushkasav li kivu reshaim la'abdeni. The reshaim hope to me to destroy me. V'tikvasim shiagiu evra klalis v'tzara al kol hanashim, or they hope for wrath and harm for all people. Mitad kinasam or mitad avas hakavod shirakim yisharu b'shava, and they want everyone else to perish, and they just want to be in peace. Uvsof ba ha'evra alehem, but at the end they're going to get a hit. I've already explained that tzadikim have longing and reshaim have hope. Okay, he's quoting another idea. Okay, I can't say this is what the Malbim is saying, but I'll tell you what was inspired by Malbim, which is like this. I wonder if the pasuk is saying that. So let's go with his premise that tava means an unattainable desire, and tikva means an obtainable desire. Okay, I wonder if it's saying like this: is the tzadikim, in a way, tzadikim are going to be hoping for something which is unattainable, right? They're hoping for absolute justice in the world, absolute perfection, knowledge of God. Those things are ultimately unattainable, right? You cannot get like perfect in any of those things, but it ends up being good for them because the striving for that ideal ends up benefiting them and benefiting everyone else. The reshaim, if we go with the notion that tikva is something which is attainable, they are aiming for something that is attainable, but it is their own like destruction and chaos in the society. In other words, it's describing in objective terms is that like they think that they're, like the mom said, they think they're striving for something which is attainable, which is absolute success and power. That's just as unrealistic as the tzadikim, but the difference is that the reshaim end up with harm and destruction and less than they have, but the tzadikim gain a lot. So in other words, both the tzadikim and the reshaim are striving for unattainable ideals. The tzaddik is unattainable because we live in a physical world with limited time and resources, but the tzaddik will still reap tons of benefit along the way. The Russia is striving for something unattainable because it's fantasy, but he will get something definite, which is destruction. You know, so something about that like intrigues me. Yeah, Zach.
Just basing off of that point of like attainable desires and unattainable hopes.
Yeah,
is I wonder if the idea is that by not attaching themselves to an outcome, they manage to exist in a state of fulfillment.
Right.
Whereas the Russia, by attaching themselves to that outcome, exist in a state of disfulfillment.
That's a good idea, right? That's a very good idea about what it means to serve God, Lishma, also, that it's all about the process and the good that you're in the middle of attaining and the decisions you're making, not about trying to achieve that end state. And the Russia does have that fantasy of like, there's this end state where I'm just going to be sitting on top of my command, you know, my tower, like zapping everyone, or I'm going to be swimming in my Scrooge pools of money, you know, some like end that he has in mind. Yeah. All right, that's good. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, actually, I kind of want to take what you're saying a little bit further. Just to summarize what you're saying first, you're saying that even that the hope is it's attainable, but it's a fantasy, and that's how the wicked, you know, it falls apart. Versus the tzaddik, where you know the desire may seem unattainable, but
you know, I just decided I'm going to do away with the Malbim's distinction. Okay, I think what it's saying is that I'm still inspired by the Malbim, but the tzadikim and the reshaim are both striving for unattainable ends. But the tzaddik's ends that he's striving for continuously benefit him more and more and more and more. But the Russia's just sets him up for a defeat and a crash.
Right. So can you also say that, you know, that maybe that it's not just referring to one individual? I think it could also be like the philosophy of tzadikim, which lasts forever. So it's not just one side; it could be eternal, and that's ultimately what makes it attainable too. Versus, you know, the Russia, it's not something you can pass down because it's
right. It's just dependent on you. Yeah, I mean, good luck for Stalin's kids. I mean, you know, like you know, the only ones who succeeded in that regard so far are the Kim dynasty. But like, you know, in our time, yeah, that works. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if that's a different idea, but it's related. Yeah, Avital?
I just had like some questions on, well, what we were saying before from the Malbim and also what Ariel just said.
Yeah. By the way, I don't understand the Malbim when I had forgotten that he quotes some pasukim, and so like I could be missing a lot from the Malbim there. So just like blame it on me instead of the Malbim. But yeah.
Just in terms of like desire being used as something that's unattainable versus like hope being used as something that is attainable. I just don't understand how, like, because when you think of somebody having hope, it's like there's all that's left is like hope, like this very slim chance of like this actually coming true, versus like a desire is like, if you want it, you can get it if you work hard enough, or like whatever it is. Like, I just feel like it has the opposite connotations of what we're saying.
Right. I see. Part of when I was reading the Malbim reminded me of what I thought Isaiah was saying earlier, which is that that hope does have to be tied to like a terminus, to like a concluding point, you know, where like I'm hoping for geula, I'm hoping for like graduation, I'm hoping, you know, like a thing, whereas taiva is like unbound, you know, there's no like intrinsic terminus to taiva.
Okay, I hear that. And then I forgot I was going to ask in terms of what Ariel was saying.
Okay, you can come back.
If I think that.
Yeah, Rivki?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that I really liked how you interpreted the Malbim because again, like I feel like it really highlights
Rifki, this time I was slapping my idea onto the Malbim. I wasn't interpreting it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I said interpretation. I really
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But I like how when you explained what you thought it was. So anyway, so the juxtaposition between the taiva and tikva. So the reason I really liked how you said it is because again, I feel like it's really not even necessarily speaking about those ideas in and of themselves, but more about the people they're attached to, because it's really saying that those ideas like having hope or having desire, even though it's really counterintuitive, it really is how you're using it. So it's showing that, like, again, like it's really Mishlei in the sense that it's not about what, Mida you're talking about, but it's about the person that has Mida.
And what choices you make with it. Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right, let's bring this shiur to a close and just see if we can get a little bit more one sentence summaries. Again, I'm gonna try to make these into 4-sentence summaries, not all of them, but one of them. Okay, so Isaiah's which we never ended up writing out because Isaiah's I sensed that like there was gonna be other people who had more to contribute to it, so I wanted to like leave it open ended. So Isaiah's idea was like this, and stop me or correct me if I'm wrong here. So, tzadikim, I'm going to try to state it in ABBA way. So tzadikim don't have fantasy-driven ego ambitions, but they do have desires, yet they channel their desires towards the good and end up benefiting themselves and others. Reshaim have reshaim, not only do they have out of control physical desires, but they have like crazy ambitions, which I forgot to include the thing of I'm mixing up the ideas now, which what was the second half of your idea? Yeah.
I mean, I would say that they allow their desires to become like ambitions.
Right. But they allow these to become ambitions, which cannot be achieved and can only result in destruction. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing a big part. Maybe I'm just mixing up with the other ideas. Okay, so Chaim's was that if you join, so it's talking to the person pulled in both directions. If you join a group of tzadikim, since their desire is for everyone to partake of the good together, you will be benefited. But if you join a group of reshaim, since their ambitions are all for their own self-advancement, and it's a zero-sum game, you will lose. Okay, and even if you win, they'll make you lose. In other words, like even if you do get to the top, then they'll come at you and make you lose.
Can I add to that real quick? Yeah. Just like I think the main maybe the main point of my idea is to like showcase the havamina on both sides. Meaning there seems to be some sort of havamina that there are these negative desires of the tzadikim, and that there's like something positive going on in the reshaim side, and like this is coming to show you like how that's not true in a sense.
Okay, so I see that in yours. I see that stronger though in Ariel's, which is that when you see the tzadikim looking like there's a desire. I'll just type this out here. When you see what looks like a base desire in a tzaddik, remember to judge it in the framework of a tzaddik. Based on how tzadikim operate, and vice versa for the reshaim. In other words, don't be duped by the appearances of their desires. Yeah, I see that less clear in yours, Chaim. You can think about it if you want. Zach was saying that that it's really about how to select friends based on the degree to which they partake of tzaddik tendencies and reshaim tendencies, and that with reshaim, their hope is fury because they want to be at the top by fomenting this this anger and discord, both to make everyone else equal to them, right? Hold on a second. To make everyone equal on equal footing, but to be the one at the top. Okay, again, this is my notes. This is not for public consumption. And to suppress the cognitive dissonance that comes from their dim recognition of reality. Okay, but tzadikim do what? What would you say for tzadikim, Zach?
That they act like piranhas for good.
Act like piranhas. Oh, I knew I wasn't going to spell that right on the first time. Piranhas for good. In what sense? In that they all team up and work together for the good,
that they desire it, that they really, when there's an opportunity, like you can see when there's an opportunity to
hunger for the good,
to achieve good or to get good.
Yeah,
some people can just be like, oh, cool, yeah, sure. And some people really want to get it.
A good example of that, and I think this does fit into Mishlei's definition of tzaddik, is when Japan was hit by the earthquake that had like the Fukushima disaster. I think like all the Japanese people instantly like went into this, okay, everyone's going to take responsibility for certain things mode, and like everyone was orderly, and like all the I mean, I remember reading the stories about like the old people who had been exposed to radiation from like the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like went and like took the risky jobs of like helping in the radiation dense areas, and like everyone was just like getting together to like repair the society and serve everyone, and it was just like a good combo. And then let's just note down the fantasy Malbim, okay, not the real Malbim, is both the tzadikim and the reshaim are striving for unattainable goals. But the goals of the tzadikim, but the striving, the involvement in the process of striving for the tzaddikim's goals will benefit them and everyone else more and more and more. Whereas the reshaim's unattainable goals, I know that's misspelled, will only end in destruction. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we got ideas. Yeah.
Rosh, I was just gonna, just ask, maybe at the end of the year we can, maybe compile your notes into like a pamphlet for all the people in your Mishlei Shiur.
Maybe. Well, if I do the 4-sentence summaries, then that'll definitely lend itself for that. Yeah, Avital.
Just in terms of the last sentence, in some ways it feels like a little bit of a betterment of like Havel Havalim of like,
I was thinking that too.
Style, but it's like better.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the way, what it actually reminded me of it is I was quoting the end of Koheles yesterday. Sof Devar Kol Nishma as Elokim Yirav es Mitzvosav Shemor Ki Zeh Kol Ha'adam. So the end of the matter when everything is considered, fear God and keep his commandments because this is the end of man. And then Rav Pesach in his Sunday Shiur quoted Moshe Rabbeinu's statement like, what does Hashem your God ask of you? Only to fear God and to serve him and to walk in all of his ways and stuff, and like these are high ideals. Like all you gotta do is fear Hashem, but like it is an unattainable goal if your goal is to attain the goal. But as a as a path that is intrinsically beneficial leading somewhere, then it's always beneficial path. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if this is what you're saying. Can I just ask one more
sure.
question on that point? So what would be like the practical takeaway from that idea?
From the Malbim's idea? I think that I don't know if this is the type of idea that Mishlei says, but I think that there is, I can say for the first half, I think there is sometimes a feeling of despair that a person has when they see the unattainable standards of perfection that the Torah expects. and I'm not going to be like a Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm not going to be like a Rambam, or I'm not going to be like, like Rav Pesach, so like there's a feeling of like, what's the point, but to realize that, no, that is the nature of perfection. You can't attain it, but every step along the way is intrinsically beneficial. And the more along the way you get, the more benefit you get with each step that you take. It's like a, okay, I just assembled a really bad analogy in my mind. It's like, bad analogy. It's like a, what do you call those things that you walk on? A treadmill. It's like a treadmill, but like every step that you take, it goes faster. And then I realized, no, that's a bad thing, but it's, it's, I guess it'd be like a bicycle where every pedal that you push, it lets you like go even faster, like it's, there's probably better analogies.
It provides momentum for the next step.
Yeah, it generates momentum. Yeah, it's like the opposite of the nature of the physical world, like the physical world, like, you're going to run out of momentum eventually, but this like keeps on propelling you. That's a better analogy. I don't know why though it would have to mention the reshaim in the same breath, because according to this idea, I don't know who the audience is. Like I don't think there's a person who says like, well, either I could pursue tzidkus, righteousness in the unattainable way, or like evil. Maybe Reish Lakish when he was going through his like bandit, like either I could be a bandit or I could like be a chacham. Maybe that. I don't know who this answer is going to. Okay, I wanted to just say some closing words. Okay, for this first session here, which is that first of all, it's really nice to be back. Okay. And learning Mishlei. But so when I sent out the survey, I didn't send this out to the guys, but for the women's shiur survey, so I had a little space that someone said, where I said like, if you have any other additional like comments, questions, or whatever, then go ahead and say them. So one woman said, I enjoy the ideas in the shiurim, but I am not a fan of the collaborative approach. Like she said, I want a more I enjoy more like teacher takes the lead, like presenting ideas type approach. And I'm not saying anything bad about that. Like obviously, like that's a good type of shiur, But what I do want to say is I feel like, and we said this at the end of last year, but I feel like this group has gotten even better at learning from each other's ideas. And I wanted to remind you of an idea I said several times last year, which is that, the normal proverb, the purpose of the proverb is to give you an idea. Okay, but a Mishleic proverb does two things. It gives you the idea, but the purpose is to get your mind thinking about the subjects in Mishleic ways, and like even times in the past where we've gone through and not come out with a clear idea, but had lots and lots of good discussions about justice and wickedness and like decision making. That is the benefit of Mishlei, So all the more so in a night like this, where we get many good ideas and a lot of good discussion and a lot of good methodology along the way. And I do think that it is a group that has grown from each other. And like, it's just really exciting to be at like the outset of a new year of Monday Night Mishlei. So here's to more Mishlei, God willing.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Until next time.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.